attack. Gravity falls.
No, not Pixar.
Season 1. Who knew? I'll be honest, maybe this
Yes, now.
clingy love shit
Yes, now.
has always been terrifying.
Yes, now.
They try to play comedically. In fact,
Yes,
I
now.
don't know why this was ever used comedically.
Yes, now.
It's a really funny thing. This
Yes, now.
was aired when Five Nights at Freddy's started making
Yes, now. Yes, now.
Captain Scarlet and the President have landed. I can see their parachutes in a field near the road. Captain Scarlet has taken the President at gunpoint to a nearby car, and they are now left heading in a northerly direction.
SIG. Pass radio fix on car and local map references. Spectrum pursuit vehicle will be operational in 5 minutes.
SIG.
No, it's our.
It was completely coincidental. Just about everything in this episode is terrifying, though. From even the concepts.
I see you have expert ratings on SPVs. It must be tricky facing backwards and driving by TV monitor.
You get used to it. Beyond the multi-phase stuff of the animatronics, everything about Tiffany is unsettling. Mostly from the way she talks, and how quickly she flips emotions. She talks about leading someone and trying to take control of someone's life as if it's the most darling thing in the world. She doesn't require any power to function, and there's no way to escape from her, except by destroying her disc, which may or may not have worked. It's amazing how she can go from cute to terrifying in a split second. And to tell you from experience, there are people like this in the world, and you'll never really know what they're like until it's far too late.
Its car cannot take. One of them terminates at London Carview. Peel off and destroy viaduct on the London Road. SIG.
Have you guys ever noticed that the Powerpuff Girls was kinda screwed up sometimes? I mean, they challenge courage for how much horror they can put into a single episode, and sometimes they even go beyond. The thought of your loved ones turning against you is terrifying, as are many of the scenarios that the show took us through. The most screwed up episode, though, has to be Knock It Off. In this episode, the professor's old roommate, Dick Hardley, tries to take the professor's success by making his own Powerpuff Girls and selling them around the world to make a quick buck. Many of these Powerpuff Girls are faulty, even to the point of certain limbs falling off. They look goofy at first, but as the episode goes on, they look more and more deformed. Reminds me of a couple of earlier episodes, Twisted Sister to name one, where, feeling that they've got too much work, the girls create a fourth Powerpuff Girl, who, while deformed, is still just as sentient as the girls. Along those lines, there's also the Rowdy Rough Boys. Throughout this episode, it's hard to see the faulty Powerpuff Girls as any less sentient than the originals. Hell, at one point, Dick Hardley makes a perfect buttercup and has her melted down because she was perfect. And towards the end, we see how harmful that process really was. Not to mention the infamous little part where all the faulty Powerpuff Girls turn on Dick.
Yeah, we're going in!
Cheng, you have the most important job. You need to stay here and look after Lena.
On a daily grind, a tad of taxing on my mind to help unwind us, so inclined I have a small suggestion.
SpongeBob. Even without suspending my rule for not including an episode that I reviewed, there would be at least a dozen episodes I could have gone with. I could have picked Spongehenge with its haunting melodies. I could have picked To Love a Patty with its strange infatuation, and how it seems to be similar to Squid Baby and had one of the writers let out their fetish. Then there's God, which was clearly inspired by a Twilight Zone episode, and that's not even counting episodes that are creepy in a good way, like Ghoul Ghouls or Shanghai. But I said it once before and I'll say it again. The creepiest episode of this show to me is Boating Buddies. Why is that? Well, it seems to take SpongeBob's obsession with Squidward up to stalker levels, and not to mention there's clearly an odd amount of attraction from his side. He clearly wants to be with Squidward for what I can only assume are his diabolical purposes. Even more so in Squid's visit, where SpongeBob seemed kind of left out of the creepiness. On top of that, this episode gives off a severe claustrophobic vibe. A lot of that comes from the fact that Squidward doesn't have any breathing room. But, in all seriousness, this episode is about being trapped with your stalker, and the world thinking that it's just the dandiest thing ever. Many people find this episode merely annoying, and I would too, but there's just some sort of uncanniness, to the point where it seems like SpongeBob is trying to assimilate Squidward.
Can we discuss this? We're both reasonable people. I'm highly allergic to being chopped up.
What's going on?
The usual. Someone's trying to off Dave.
I'll put a stop to that. Clem Russell!
Do you have any idea what this is gonna cost me in shoes?
Could we move to another part of the castle? I'm running out of things to hide behind.
Guarantee my leadership, prepare for quite a scam. What will you share in this night? That would be my only question.
Perhaps the closest episode to breaking my Halloween episode rule, we've got the Puppet Master from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You've probably noticed that the theme of losing control has been quite prominent throughout my list. Losing control of the situation, your life, or even your body. It's something that's always seemed to terrify me personally. Perhaps that's some inbred fear built up over years of psychological trauma, but that's another story. This episode follows that concept to a T. Since the Nostalgia Critic already covered this episode fairly well in its top 11 best Avatar episodes, there really isn't much else I have to say. But as episodes go, this is probably the best episode on the list as an episode in itself.
Tinky Winky!
Dipsy! Yala! Your hair lies like a sandmill. One good stare of
I like Rocko's Modern Life. It was
You
a
too,
really good
man.
show. It has aged fairly well, despite its odd concepts. But there are some things
You too,
fit
partner.
in a kid's show. Having your main character getting seduced by someone is one of those things. When Mrs. Bighead feels like she isn't getting enough attention from her husband, she tries to seduce Rocko, who is completely innocent to the whole situation, even when she makes him watch a nature documentary about the mating habits of frogs. This episode actually starts out innocently enough until about halfway through the episode.
As air conditioning. Yet thanks to my trusty safety sphere, I survived with only trivial brain damage. In the
Then Rocko ends up ripping off the dress.
At least it's something to distract me from Leela. Yeah. Now that I like for some reason.
Mr. Head comes in, she kisses Rocko.
Thank you. I shall do it!
The truth is, Fry, I still have feelings for you. But are they really my feelings? Am I just an automaton?
Boating Buddies, it gives off a very claustrophobic and awkward vibe. Mr. Bighead uses this as a wake-up call to do some freaky shit.
Sufficient complexity legitimately achieve consciousness.
End the episode! The plot is over! End the episode! End it now!
I agree.
I need some time to figure this out. Until then, friends?
Okay.
Listen up, disco dummies! You just flunked out of Bender's College of Art and Knowledge! Woohoo! Boobity-doo, lippity-da-doo! Yeah, man!
Your hair lies like a sandmill. One good stare of